here. Right. All right, I'm gonna let everyone in. Okay.
Hello, everybody. This is the most exciting moment of the day when everyone floods in. Thank you so much for being here. I guess we will now go ahead and get started. So I'm going to just jump right in with some general introductions of the people we have planned to help give you an orientation and overview of Heartland Fall Forum, which is super exciting. Back in person, 10th anniversary. We cannot wait to see everybody there. I'm Carrie Obery, Director of Midwest Booksellers Association, which means I'm co-director of Heartland Fall Forum. And we're going to go ahead and let everyone who's speaking introduce themselves. So Larry, why don't you jump in?
Hello, everybody. I'm Larry Law. I'm the director of the Great Lakes Independent Booksellers Association and co-director of Heartland.
And MEBA staff, Kate and Melissa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Peterson, and I am the program coordinator for MEBA.
My name is Kate Scott, and I'm the operations manager at MEBA. When we get to Heartland, you'll mostly see me at the registration desk and out on the trade show floor. So I'll see you there.
And our industry speakers are Danny from Raven and Chris from IPG, Independent Publishers Group. So Danny, please introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Danny Caine. I am a part owner of the Raven Bookstore in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm on the MEBA board as well as the ABA board. And I think I've been to 3 Heartlands. It would be, well, 3 in-person Heartlands, and I'm excited to resume this fall.
I'm Chris Conti. I'm with Independent Publishers Group. I take care of, I don't know, 18 states or so in the Midwest. And this, I think, will maybe be like my 5th Heartland, because I was a buyer before this, so, and worked for Fiden before this too. So, hello. Oh, and did I say I'm on the Cleaver board also?
Great. Thank you, everybody. We have a nice mixed group of both booksellers and publishers here today. So we're kind of taking a dual hat approach to describing all the great things about the show. And I just realized I forgot one more person. We have a St. Louis bookseller with us to help talk about why we are all excited to come to St. Louis. So Shane Mullen, want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Shane Mullen. I'm the event coordinator for Left Bank Books, and I'm also on the MEBA board. This will be my 3rd Heartland, I believe. I was just trying to do quick math. But I'm super excited to have Heartland Fall Forum in St. Louis, and I'm here to be a local guide.
So clearly this is a lovely group of friends. It's casual. Jump in, ask questions. You can keep your video on and chat. You can tap in the chat field very generously and share your questions that way, and we will be sure to get them all answered. So just generally to start, I wanted to talk about what great news we all have. It's been an exceptional few years in so many ways and so hard in so many ways, but through it all, it's fascinating that our stores are growing and growing. MEBA has 54 new stores since the pandemic began. 12 of those are BIPOC owned, which is extraordinary. That deserves a round of applause. It continues to grow. And I know that Gleba has similar numbers. If Larry wants to talk about that when he's speaking, my point is that there are so many new people to meet. There's extraordinary growth across all the regional associations across all the countries. And we are super excited to meet you all for the first time, and for publishers to meet with those booksellers and get to know you and to be able to serve you better. So it's a really great benefit of being at an in-person show. Generally wanted to talk about how the show is set up. As I mentioned, this is our 10th year. MIBA and GLIBA had separate trade shows in the past, and there was just a lot of chatter among publishers and exhibitors and industry reps to bring it together to represent the entire Midwest in one show. And let me just tell you, it has made so much sense in so many ways. It is wonderful to have this ongoing celebration of independent bookstores that represents our entire region. You get to meet so many people. It's wonderful to see friends from both associations. So come and help us celebrate, if you're able, the 10th anniversary of our show. We typically have, well, let me back up. I wanted to talk about the nature of the show. If you've never been to one of our shows, you need to sort of understand how the various industry shows have fit together over the years. And that's that Book Expo, which is actually no longer, used to be the big nationwide exhibit hall for the book industry, where publishers and book industry people would exhibit, and booksellers and everyone who wanted to meet with them would come to have that show floor experience. Now that Book Expo is no longer, there is no clear path forward for what exactly may or may not replace that. It makes the show floor at Heartland a little bit more prominent in the world of how booksellers meet publishers, because we do have that show floor experience for you. Danny and Chris are going to talk about that in great detail, about how you prepare for that, how you walk the floor, what to talk about, and all those good things. So in addition to that experience, there's also authors and education and social events. We generally have about 300 booksellers attend in any given year, and about 60 to 70 exhibitors in any given year, and about 80 to 100 publishers. Just to give you a sense of the size, it's not a small show. It's a nice, exciting group of people to be with. When it comes to the cost, I wanted to do a quick overview of how that works, because there is sometimes a little bit of sticker shock when it comes to our event tickets, with a lunch or a dinner being somewhere between $60 or $80. I would just like everyone to know that that happens because we need to reach our food and beverage minimum with our hotels, which are really quite astronomical, especially these days, as we all can imagine. We don't make money off of those event tickets. And because those event tickets are higher, entrance to the show floor is free. So that's how you should sort of conceptualize your approach to budgeting for the show. And then, of course, booksellers will be covering their own transportation and hotel. There is a room block with a discounted room rate, and we'll be sharing the link to that very soon. We have a host of sponsors, publishers, and industry reps who sponsor our show, and we're very grateful for those. So please watch out for those on the Heartland website. I don't know if Nikki is here today. She registered, for example, Scholastic is hosting the Movable Feast, which is thrilling. So thank you, Scholastic. And if you look on our website, you'll see a whole list of people who are sponsoring us. So thank you for that as well. And I wanted to also make sure everyone knows that we are, of course, making our way through what we feel like might be reaching toward the manageable end of the pandemic. We are still at a point where we are requiring vaccination. So when you do register for the show, there will be a moment to upload your vaccination card. Whether or not masks are going to be involved is a more game time decision. At this point, it doesn't seem like we're heading in that direction, but you never know because of sometimes the uptake in winter months. So just know that we're taking that all very seriously. In all of our meal events, we have a special half-hour moment where you can kind of go on your own and eat before the entire group gets there to eat, if you feel like you're in a circumstance where that would benefit you. And that's all I have for now. So Larry's going to do a little bit more overview of the show and talk to you about the schedule and other good things there.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, I'm going to jump into the schedule, but quickly to address what Carrie mentioned earlier, we've also had very similar numbers. Our GLIBA membership numbers beginning the pandemic were around 130 stores, and now we're at, I think, as of last week, about 211 stores. So there's definitely been a boom during the pandemic of new stores joining. And as of right now, 18 of those stores are BIPOC owned, which is awesome. I'm going to go kind of line by line through the schedule, pull out some highlights, some things that you might want to know if you've never attended. If you have any questions, throw those into the chat. Carrie, would you mind watching the chat just in case any of those pop up, those I can address as they pop up. So our first official day of Heartland Fall Forum starts on Wednesday, October 12th. We kick it off with a bus tour. There'll be 3 bus tours that day. We'll throw the link for that into the chat momentarily. But there's 3 tours to choose from. Tickets are required to attend those. Following that, we have a new bookstore orientation. So this will be an in-person orientation hosted by board members. So that kind of kicks off the official start of Heartland at the hotel. Following that, we have our book award celebration. This is super fun and not to be missed if you can avoid it. So we'll be announcing the winners ahead of time, but will be an hour-long celebration celebrating this year's Heartland Booksellers Award winners and the Voice of the Heartland winner. This year's event is hosted by Isaac Fitzgerald and Saeed Jones, which is very exciting. Directly following that is the author reception. So we have, I think, 20 or so authors, and also featuring the award winners from the Heartland Booksellers Award at that. So directly following that will be a reception. Great place to mingle, talk to booksellers, talk to publishers, talk to authors after that. So directly following that, we have an offsite party. The offsite party takes place at the Novel Neighbor. That party is sponsored. We have 10 independent presses sponsoring that event. Also a great way to meet booksellers, meet publishers, just chat and mingle with each other. So that will conclude the first night of Heartland on Wednesday. The next day, our first full day of Heartland begins. That's Thursday, October 13th. From 7 to 8 p.m., we have a Friends of Bill private meeting taking place. Following that, we have our first ticketed breakfast. It's our keynote and plenary breakfast. Tickets are available for that on our website. Following that, we have education. So how education works, education takes place in breakout rooms during Heartland. So we have 3 to 4 separate sessions, education sessions taking place, 10 to 10:50, 11 to 11:50, and 12 to 12:50. We have 3 to 4 sessions per block. I would recommend going in with a game plan. We should have enough room in each session to accommodate everybody that wants to attend the sessions, but I kind of prioritize what you want ahead of time. All the session titles and working descriptions are on the website right now if you want to check those out. I'll quickly go through them just real quick. I think Danny's going to talk about education a little bit more later, but we have a DEI anti-racism workshop, a romance panel, sidelines and merchandising panel, alternative model bookstore and nonprofit subsidiary panel, a TikTok panel, Ask a Publisher, schools and bookstores, helping build strong communities, making your bookstore more accessible, selling graphic novels and manga, strengths of nonprofit mission-driven presses, and that concludes the day of education. So directly following that, we go into lunch. This is a rep lunch. So you'll be hearing from reps from our industry pitching their fall and spring titles for next year. That is from 1 to 2 p.m. directly following education. And then right after that, we have the trade show floor. The trade show floor is open from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. Directly following the trade show floor, closing at 5:30. Yeah, this is kind of to be announced at some point where I think we're not there yet, but we have offsite. We're encouraging offsite publisher dinners during that time, and then maybe announcing something else during that time. So check back for that. And then to conclude our night, how much time is rep? How much time? 8 minutes, Ruth. I just saw your question. Each rep will present for 8 minutes. All right, and so to conclude our night on Thursday, we have the legendary Quiz Bowl. So, yeah, always lots of questions about Quiz Bowl. I guess it's maybe never clear. It's kind of one of those things you just happen into when you're at Heartland. So how it works is you don't really have to prepare ahead of time. That being said, it's taking place at the Gateway Arch? So it's the coolest room in the hotel. It's rooftop. It overlooks the arch. It's beautiful. So weather pending, that's where it's going to take place. And what it is, it's basically a literary quiz ball. So there's teams of up to 6 players. You can organize at the event or meet up with booksellers, authors, publishers ahead of time and get your team together and then meet at the Arch for Quiz Bowl. Quiz Bowl is hosted by the winning team from the previous year. So that team prepares the questions. There are, I think, up to 10 rounds of questions. And then the winner then is in charge of hosting the Quiz Bowl for next year. So if you can come to Quiz Bowl, you don't have to play if you don't want to, but I highly suggest coming, just checking it out. Super fun. So there's no questions. I'm going to keep going. And then the next day concludes our last day of Heartland. That's Friday, October 14th. Also from 7 to 8 p.m., we have a private meeting Friends of Bill from 7 to 8 a.m. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, I wanted to mention, during all of our meals, we have something we're calling COVID safe meals. So what that is our lunches will be boxed and available a half hour before each meal for anybody attending the lunch to come get their lunch, take it off site, take it to their room, eat privately so they can, if you don't want to eat in a large public forum, that's totally available to you. So Friday morning, 8 to 9:30, we have another ticketed event. It's the multi-author keynote breakfast. Directly following that, the trade show floor will be open from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And then we are concluding the day with Movable Feast. Movable Feast is 12:30 to 2 p.m. So I believe that's 40 plus authors during that session. And then that concludes the day. One thing I want to go back and mention, during the last day of the trade show floor being open, we host something for Bink. It's the Bink auction. So on the trade show floor, Gleba and Miva both have catalog booths. And at the catalog booths, we request up to 2 titles per publisher that have advertised in our holiday catalog. So all those titles will be on display. And during that time, booksellers are welcome to come up, talk to the board members watching the booth, talk to Carrie and myself. But also you can browse the titles and then place a bid on those titles. And what happens is at the end of the show, the highest bidder wins all those books for their store. And the money generated from that bid is all donated to Bink at the end of the show. So it's very cool. Is Jane, are you from Bink? Are you in the session today?
I am in the session, yes.
Awesome.
Thanks for the call out for Bink.
Yeah. If you anything you want to add.
No, just very excited that you've got that little fundraiser going for Bink, and I encourage everybody to bid early and often, and we're excited to be a part of it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool. I think that's everything I have. I'm going to throw it over to Melissa to talk about registration.
All right. Thanks so much, Larry. So I'm here to talk about registration and tickets, and probably the most important one is registering for Heartland show in general. Carrie just threw the link in the chat, but you have until the 20th to get that in. And once you register, you're also going to need your Vax card to upload immediately, like Carrie mentioned previously. And everything in that link includes, booking your room. Carrie mentioned the room block before, so be sure to utilize that. And then you'll also be prompted to book all of your event tickets. And Larry touched a little bit on this in the schedule previously, but our first set of tickets are going to be for all of our author events. So Larry mentioned that keynote author plenary breakfast, and that is going to feature Sydney Keys, who we're so excited about. He is this awesome entrepreneur turned author, and he has this great connection with I See Me bookstore in St. Louis as well. So he will be sort of kicking off our show on a high note. So hopefully we'll see you there for that one. And then the next ticket is going to be for our Friday, October 14th multi-author keynote breakfast. And our authors are listed on our website, but it's going to be 5 authors. Right now we have Veronica Roth, Brandon Taylor, Ross Gay, Timothy Egan, and then Roshani Chatsky. So it's going to be a fully loaded morning. And then also to our movable feast. So that's going to be 40 authors. And right now we're just rounding out and finalizing that list. So be sure to check into our website because we will post all the authors there very soon. And then Larry also touched on the bus tour that we are so excited about. It's officially called the Heartland St. Louis Shelf Seeing Tour, and Shane Mullen came up with that name. So thank you, Shane. But you can find all of your tickets on our website as well. And it's 3 separate tours, and each tour is going to highlight 3 different bookstores. So the first tour is going to highlight the Noir Bookshop, Little Readers, and Left Bank Books. And then the second tour is going to include Main Street Books, I See Me, and Subterranean Books. And then the third tour is going to stop at the Webster Groves Bookshop, Betty's Books, and the Book House. So these tours run from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. The buses will leave right from the hotel and take you all these magical places, and more information can be found on our website, but don't miss out on those tickets. They are good to be booked until September 12th, and same with all the other event tickets as well. So that pretty much wraps it up for my portion. For now, I will send it over to Danny Caine.
Before we do that, one small thing that I don't think Melissa and I have even talked about yet much, that when you register for the author events, you can choose to be that you can choose the main ticket, or you can choose a Kate Scott, what do we call the other one? The back of the
General, I believe.
general admission. So that's a choose your own adventure. If you get the main ticket, of course, you're up there, you're in the thick of it. You're seated at a round table with 8 to 10 other booksellers, maybe publishers. You're just a little bit more in a spot where you're able to network and be closer to the authors who are speaking. And the general, and of course, get the meal. The general admission is seating in the back, chairs, no meal, where you're watching the event, but not participating in the meal. So that's the distinction there.
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, Danny.
Okay, I'm up. Hi, everyone. This is just making me so excited for the show. I'm going to talk a little bit just about some advice for first timers, or even advice that I forget as a seasoned attendee of industry conferences. But first, I want to talk about Ashley's question from the chat, which I'll read in case you missed it. How does this differ from the ABA conference? Does it make sense to attend if you went to Children's Institute? I think that's a really great question, and I'm happy to talk about that a little bit. I think the answer is a resounding yes, at least in my book. It's totally worth it. I happily went to Children's Institute, and I'm happily going to go to Heartland, and I think both are worthwhile investments of my time and money to attend. How is it different? I think the show floor is one main difference. The signature ABA conferences, Winter Institute and Children's Institute, don't have a show floor where you'll have publisher booths and where you can meet sales reps and folks from all these great publishing companies. I have, for a long time, the Raven only had phone reps, and then of course there was COVID. So I have sales reps that I've only met in person on the floor at Heartland. And so it can be really great to put a face to the name behind the emails and get to meet and talk to people, place orders, talk about show specials. I'll let Chris get to all that. But I mean, the show floor itself is a huge asset and is one of the best kind of annual opportunities for face-to-face interaction with folks from the publishers. I also think just it's of course it's a Midwest focused show. Every year we highlight a great Midwestern city. We've had Heartland recently in Minneapolis and Cleveland, and now this year in St. Louis. All of these are great places, which may be easier and more economical to get to for a lot of us, but also a great chance to see places around the region, see bookstores from the region, meet folks from these cities, and of course the book awards celebration is just the best and most joyful hour of Midwestern literary culture. I think that alone is worth the price of admission, to see all these great books and authors awarded for putting our region in a great light. And then I just think it's never bad to be in community, especially after the last couple of years, which were so exhausting and prone to burnout, to kind of gather and recharge, even if it weren't for those key differences from the ABA shows. I think Heartland would be great just for all of us to get together. But that, plus the fact that this is different and Midwest focused and a different set of opportunities, means Heartland is totally worth it. And I'll let other folks weigh in on that if you find my thoughts incomplete. But that's just the quick notes I jotted down when I saw Ashley's question. Okay, and then just in terms of some advice, some things I've learned about conferences throughout my career attending them. It's important to pace yourself. You can tell by Larry's rundown that this is a really packed event. There's stuff from sun up to sundown and even past sundown. It's okay to take care of yourself. You're allowed to take naps, wear comfortable shoes, drink a lot of water. That's especially as you get into the evening and alcoholic beverages might be involved. Stay hydrated, because there's a lot of work to do tomorrow as well. So pacing yourself is really important. You don't want to burn yourself out on the first day of the conference. Two things I almost always forget to bring and regret it are business cards and a one sheet about my store. Both of those are super helpful. I think you can always, of course, these days use your phones to exchange phone numbers, but I think there's something really professional and special about a business card and handing it. And I always have fun to look through the business cards I've collected at Heartland. So make sure to bring business cards. You have time to make them if you don't have them. And there are lots of places online that you can get them pretty cheap. And then a one sheet about the store. This is kind of interesting. You'll be meeting a lot of publishers, but also authors. And these are folks that, I mean, among other things, you might set up events with these authors. I think one of the kind of silent promises of Heartland is these authors are interested in the Midwest. Many of them have connections to the Midwest. They might be open to appearing or doing or working with Midwestern bookstores. And so one great way to do that is to have a sheet of information about your store that you can hand out really easily. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, as long as it has your phone number and email address on it and gives it a pretty quick rundown of who you are and what you're about. I'm sure there are examples out there. I certainly have one if you want to ask me to see an example of what the one sheet looks like. But again, it's just a quick little sheet of paper. You can design it in Canva really quick with just the basic rundown of who you are and what you do and where you are. That can really help you get onto the radar of these publishers and these authors. Bring your bookstore merch. I've seen questions in the past a lot about dress code. This is a super casual show. Fortunately, I think the kind of predominant uniform is a bookstore t-shirt. So you're totally cool. I would much rather you be comfortable and taking care of yourself with your wardrobe choices than squeezing yourself into something formal and being uncomfortable for long stretches of time. So again, it's a really casual and welcoming show, and the bookstore t-shirt is the kind of uniform of the day. I realize it's not very old school of me, and I hope there might be people who disagree with me, but that's how I go about it. I mean, sometimes I'll bring a nice button down, but really it's not a fancy show. And then finally, I'm sure I'll think of some other things and I'll chime back in if I do, but you're allowed to leave the hotel. It can be kind of tempting to, there's so much going on in the hotel, and at every hour there are going to be booksellers hanging out in the lounges and the bars, and it can be really tempting just to stay in. But we're in a wonderful place. We pick different cities for a reason. St. Louis has a ton of it's three bus tours and an opening receptions worth of amazing independent bookstores in St. Louis. You got to make sure to see those one way or the other. And it's also a really cool and interesting city. So speaking of that, with that, I'll let that be we're going to Chris next, not Shane. Shane will talk more about St. Louis later. But now from the publisher perspective, I'm going to kick it over to Chris from IPG.
Thanks, Danny. So I work for Independent Publishers Group. We distribute hundreds of little publishers from all over the world. And so, yeah, I kind of wanted to talk mostly about the exhibition floor, and Danny covered a lot of this stuff. But I'll say that I went to the 2 in-person shows that happened last year, which were PNBA and MPIBA, and like people were really, really, really excited to see each other. And so I'm excited to see all of you all, meeting a lot of you for the first time. Like I said, I have about 400 accounts that I'm supposed to be selling to. So I really, as Danny said, encourage you to introduce yourself to especially the publishers, also, you know, your fellow booksellers, but especially the publishers. I quite often get in the booth when I'm talking to someone, they will say, is it okay if I place an order now? Can you take an order now? And the answer is 100% yes. That's why we're here. When I was a buyer and asked that same question, I never really asked that question because I didn't want to have to duplicate my work when I got back to the office, meaning you're looking at books that you think can do well, place an order, you know. And if you're worried about not being in front of Edelweiss or being able to create a purchase order, I might just be speaking for myself, but we can definitely send you an order through Edelweiss. You can send me your purchase order number, however administrative you want to be about it. You know, I would really just recommend not creating more work for yourself, because I kind of feel like it'll never happen. You have the best intentions of going back and be like, I'm gonna go look through that catalog again. So yeah, I would just highly recommend, using the exhibition floor as sort of a bookshop that's not yours, that you're browsing through. The chance to get to see books without having to buy them, or go to another bookstore. But definitely, as we're nearing fourth quarter and when everybody is going to have the most business that they will have all year, hopefully, I would say don't create more work for yourself, is my suggestion. And definitely, so some etiquette things that I'm supposed to talk about is, ask for stuff. Don't just grab it. It's quite often we've rushed copies of books that haven't been published yet, just for this show, so that you all can see it. Certainly the last couple hours, as usually what I say, I'm like, can't take it now, but come like when we're closing, and I'll definitely give you a copy. And we can also always send stuff to you, not a problem. Another thing about introducing yourself is, many of the publishers are looking to take specific buyers out to dinner, so we can get to know one another. So, if you don't have plans and you have nobody to hang out with, you should mention that when you're talking to publishers. It's a really good way to get to know people. And I think Danny also mentioned the one sheet thing, which I will reiterate. Now that I work for a distributor, I used to work for Fiden. We sold kind of one thing. It was coffee table books, cookbooks, illustrated books, that sort of thing. Now we're all over the place. And it's really interesting to me to find, we have a really big music publisher called Omnibus. We have a sports publisher called Triumph. Both of those things don't always totally mesh with an indie bookstore. And so if you're able to describe sort of what your customers are buying most often, kind of what your specialty is, that's always really, really helpful for someone like me who's trying to get to know 400 different accounts. It's also a really good time to express interest in authors. And there are several rep groups there as well who will be able to take those requests back to the individual publishers that they represent. So yeah, look at stuff ahead of time. And, even if there might not be an author tour planned, all it takes for us quite often is somebody expressing interest. So I would highly recommend having those conversations now if you can. I think that might be about it for me.
Chris, would you talk a little bit about the seasonality of the show? What season are you leaning into heavily? What season typically are booksellers buying for? Has that changed because of the pandemic and the labor supply shortages?
I didn't mention show specials, which is another thing to ask about. I think almost every publisher will have a show special there. Sometimes they're not always on huge signs and in your face. I kind of always like, even not at the show, if anybody ever emails me and says, do you guys have a special going on right now? I usually will make one up because they've asked. But yeah, as far as the season goes, I don't know about everybody else, but we're selling fall. I really found at the last two shows at MPIBA and TNBA that people were buying for fourth quarter, and kind of using this as an opportunity. We won't have a ton for spring, but yeah, I feel like people were like, it was kind of like the oh shit moment of like, okay, it's October, like we got a month to stock the store. And so, and with reps not calling on people in person, I don't feel like people are really up to speed in terms of reps coming to your stores and selling you a full season. I think it's really going to be fall that most people are dealing with. I don't know, maybe somebody else feels differently, but that's what we're going to be focusing on. And also we have those books in stock to show you. We don't really have much in the way of spring books ready to show anyone yet.
It's true that everything that Chris said. In addition, some of the really the bigger publishers will be focusing on winter of 2023. They'll have books from January through April of 2023. So that's how far in the future some of the publishers will be operating. And I just wanted to share one little, I think, gem of advice that I've heard from booksellers over the years. If the show is ever overwhelming or you're not sure how to break into a conversation, just come with an icebreaker question, and that's going to just be all you need to start a conversation. Hey, I'm looking to build my backlist. I'm looking to build my poetry section. I don't have authors coming. I don't have this. I don't have that. Just like a specific question that you can just generally ask a lot of different people just to get the conversation flowing. So never be intimidated and just open a conversation.
I want to jump in real quick and highlight a question from the chat that I'm not sure that anyone has gotten a chance to jump in on from Bronte at, backing up further, Orca Book Publishing. Any tips for connecting to coordinate a publisher/bookstore dinner? And maybe Chris has some ideas on that, or even some of our other publisher guests today.
I'm sorry, any tips on arranging a publisher bookseller dinner during the show? Was that the question?
Yes, I believe so. Since we've set aside some of those evening times, like advice for the publishers, it sounds like, and maybe Bronte could even jump in and say what they were meaning. But yeah, how to do that. Oh, I see her jump up.
Hi. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, I'm going to be at Heartland first time, and I'm pretty new to Orca as well. And I know that it was mentioned that it's encouraged to have booksellers and publishers like hook up for dinner on, I think it was the Thursday. So I just don't know how to begin that. So I'm wondering if you have any tips there.
Hey, well, I haven't arranged anything, and I would love to. So I don't know. Send me an email, and we'll set up a dinner. I'll put my email in the chat to you. Yeah, or to anybody really. Yeah.
I want to mention too that if you go onto the Heartland website, if you go to the, I think it's the registration page, there is a list of all the bookstores that are currently registered. So that would be a good spot also if you're looking for potentially people to reach out to invite. There's a full list of stores there.
And you probably saw this, but we will be giving you our attendee list at 2 different points, before the show and after. So that'll be a very detailed, just if you haven't met people yet, you're going to just do some cherry picking and start to figure out who you want to get to know and start your invites. I love the idea of publishers getting together, though. That's like a bigger bang for your buck. It makes it more exciting. It gets more people together. I think that's a fabulous idea.
I'll also say on the flip side of that, if you're a bookseller who is attending Heartland, our exhibitor page has all of our attending publishing companies, sideline vendors, whoever is coming to exhibit with us listed there as well. So feel free to reach out. Don't feel like you have to wait for the invite. Start making those connections whenever you want to.
Is it my turn? Okay. I don't know. I am so excited to welcome you all to St. Louis. It is, I'm born and raised in Missouri, and St. Louis is my adopted home of the past 17 years. I very much remember my first Heartland Fall Forum. It was my first conference that I ever went to as a bookseller, and I wasn't even certain at that point, like what my future would be in bookselling. I was a part-time bookseller that got brought up to management, and they said, go to this conference. And we did not have one of these. So we did not have like a welcome and orientation, even like, I mean, the store had been to conferences before, so people were like, oh yeah, take your business card. But like, I didn't even know how to answer something as simple as like, what's your square footage? And it was like, I don't know, we have 3 rooms and a basement. Like, I have no idea. I still don't know how big our store is. So if someone asked me that question at the conference, I still have no answer. You would think I would have come up with that after 10, 11 years. But I will say that there is so much value in going to a conference, and it really did help me make connections. I still remember very, very fondly the people that I met at that first Heartland that kind of took me underneath their wing and introduced me to people. I still am friends with those people to this day and reach out to them when I have questions about the book selling community. So the people that you meet at Heartland, more so than like Winter Institute, Book Expo, Children's Institute, although if you're a children's only bookstore, like you are going to meet some really fantastic connections at Children's Institute. But meeting people who understand where you are and understand kind of the region of bookstores is incredible. And we all kind of face similar kind of obstacles. We face similar kind of goals. There are a lot of things that as a region, we understand more than if you are talking to a bookseller in Seattle or New York or wherever it might be. So I do love and appreciate all the people that I've gotten to meet. And in terms of answering Karen, yes, Karen's question. Karen, yes. Going to Heartland Fall Forum was one of the things that really made me come up with plans for myself and come up with ideas for how I could make this a part of my life and how I could shape my career of like, oh, like there are other people like me. There are other bookstores that have similar goals to my bookstore. And yeah, I think that there is so much value in going to a conference, and especially Heartland Fall Forum for the member stores. And in terms of welcoming you to St. Louis, I will say that I have, in the past couple of months, taken upon myself to do several touristy things that I have not done while in the city. So recently I went to the beautiful new aquarium and Union Station, which is not far from the show floor and the hotel. There's of course the Arch, which is very, very close to where we will be staying. There are incredible restaurants. I can make a dozen barbecue recommendations for you. So if you're looking for barbecue, St. Louis is very well known for it, and I can send you to the right places. There are a lot of things to do outside of just the immediate area. And you will find that most of the places that you want to go are easily accessible by car. Most are 10, 15 minutes away. If you miss one of the bookstores that is on the tour, so if you hop on a bus that is going to Main Street Books, but you really want to see Left Bank Books and Noir, and those are very accessible. So just even though you might not be from the St. Louis area, just know that it is there definitely is ride sharing. So yeah, Uber, Lyft, all over the region. Where we are staying, the Metrolink is very accessible. Where you might be going might not be as accessible. So if you hop on the metro, it might get you closer to your location, and then depending on where you want to go, you might need to like rent a Lime scooter or something and hop on one of those and go to your destination. But yeah, I take ride sharing all over the city. I'm very comfortable with it, and have always had really fantastic luck with drivers. So I recommend getting out, seeing the city, seeing some of the sites outside of downtown, the beautiful Central West End, where Left Bank Books is, has the Forest Park with multiple free museums, the art museum, the zoo, the history museum. The history museum also has a bookstore, so you can like kind of do a double whammy on that one. Same with the art museum. They also have a bookstore, but there are things to do like the botanical garden. There are very renowned restaurants all over the city that will be in like little hidden pockets. St. Louis is known as a burgeoning culinary destination. So we have really fantastic award-winning, James Beard award-winning restaurants that you can explore. And what else do people like to do? There are a lot of bars and like places to go. The ballpark village, it's going to be October, so I guarantee that there's going to be a sports game of some sort playing. And that's, I think, happens in October. I don't know, someone else can say that. Chris probably knows better than I do. Yeah, if you have any questions about what to do in St. Louis, or if you're like, hey, does St. Louis offer this? I will be all over, and I will probably be wearing my signature bright green scarf because it will be October. So unless it's very hot unseasonably, you can probably find me pretty easily on the show floor.
I was going to add a couple of things. Was someone else talking? I thought I heard someone. That maybe Emily would like to say hi, as well as also a resident bookseller who's hanging out right here with us. And also, I'm not sure if we fully touched on education. Maybe Emily, you would talk about why it's so important. And then save 10 minutes at least if there's any additional questions for people to ask.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Hi, Carrie. I'm Emily Hallstrone. I'm the owner of Main Street Books in St. Charles, Missouri, which is if you start at the Arch and go west 30 minutes. Yay, there we are. I'm like sitting over here, like thinking about all of Shane's things that he's saying. I'm like, oh yeah, that thing and that thing. Oh yeah, that thing too. Because St. Charles gets into its little suburban little thing, and people in St. Charles don't like to cross the river and go into St. Louis. So I always forget there's such cool things to do very, very close to my house. Education. Let's talk about education. The education component of Heartland Fall Forum is going to be much like you'll find at Winter Institute and Children's Institute, with a very important distinction, and that is it is very wonderfully regionally focused. So not only will you get ideas as to how to how to do certain things for your store, ideas for your store that can be used in a very broad way. It's all coming to you from people that are in your region that understand your particular area of the country. So instead of trying to employ strategies that maybe would work better on the coast, maybe down in the South, maybe in the Southwest, you'll get true Midwestern and Great Lakes like actual solutions, which I find very, very valuable. My first Heartland Fall Forum, I went to a panel on owners and managers, managing stuff. And Chris Conti, who's the owner of Left Bank Books, was one of the panelists. And it not only was, I was a little bit starstruck at that point. I still am a little bit starstruck just when Chris walks into a room. But it was very important to me to see somebody from my region dispensing information and advice that I found to be extremely valuable. And, as an owner manager, she said something that still resonates with me to this day, and that's don't get mired in the minutia, which I'm still real bad at. So sorry, Chris, that I'm not following that advice quite yet. But anyway, so education is a really important component of Heartland Fall Forum. You'll get to see your fellow booksellers in their element, telling other people about how they manage their stores, about what they do and what they stand for. And it's really important to see people in the Midwest and Great Lakes really showcasing their best side. So that's part of the reason I like the education. And Heartland was my first trade show I ever attended, so I just have a soft spot for it just in general. So it's great to come, and I really hope to see you all in St. Louis in October. It's gonna be great. You should all come and see me at Main Street Books, but that's my shameless plug for Shelf Staying Tour number 2.
It's gonna be tough.
I know. There's so many. See, that's the problem. There's so many good stores, and you just can't. You can't choose. You can't choose. You somehow have to go on all 3 tours, and I don't know how a person does that.
Well,
I was gonna.
I think I answered Ruth's question pretty well I could go on forever about some LGBTQIA plus places around the city, but Ruth, if you have more specific things you're looking for, I can definitely guide you in some directions.
I would jump in with a couple things real quick, Carrie, if that's all right. One thing to also keep in mind, if you're interested in getting more involved with your regional association, this is a great opportunity to do that. Come talk to Carrie, talk to myself, talk to the board members. The board members will have special little badges so you'll know who they are. If you want to, you know, every year, I think pretty much every year, MIBA and GLIBA have booksellers rotate off the board. So we are always looking for new board members. So come up, introduce yourself, tell us you'd like to get involved. There's a, you know, most of our events are and programming is committee driven. So we're always looking for education committee members to participate in things. So yeah, feel free to come up to us and talk to us. One thing that was said to me my early days of coming to Heartland that always stuck with me was someone told me that Heartland happens in between. And I took that as like, you're there for the programming and to meet people, but it's the conversation at dinner, it's the walk in the hallway, it's the after hours drinks where, you know, your memories and key things you're going to take away from Heartland are going to happen. So try to keep that in mind. The off time is just as important as being in an education session.
Spoken as a former bookseller. Did I hear someone else wanting to jump in? Are there any thoughts, questions, big or small? Does anyone want to say hi? How's it going? We're here for you.
The weather in St. Louis in October is generally pretty nice. We don't typically ever get snow until like after Halloween. So we should be kind of in that beautiful, crisp kind of fall, perfect like sweater weather. But I will say that also October can be known to be somewhat warm and we get our like third summer. So yeah, definitely bring layers, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it could be very warm and it could also be like, oh, it's way too cold. Like
Correct. Highly recommend bringing layers and possibly even a rain jacket because you never know in October whether it's going to be, you know, just beautiful, like just partly cloudy, everything's great, sweater, boots, pumpkin spice latte, or if it's just going to be gross and rainy. So yeah, layers, rain jacket.
yeah.
Pack tote bags for when you pick up the books you will invariably pick up. And if you're unable to bring them all home with you, we will have shipping, I believe so. We haven't even gotten to that detail yet. We usually do. I'm sure we will this year. Shipping at the show so you can send your stuff back with you.
Yeah, and you can also bring like an extra bag just to like have like your, if you're depending on which airline you're flying, you could have your like clothing bag and you could have your extra bag for like, oops, I picked up too many books.
Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way in Minneapolis my first year when I had to take a taxi to Macy's to buy an extra suitcase. So yeah.
That's how you got out of that pickle?
That is how I got out of that pickle. Also, I shipped a 60-pound box of books home because I'm dumb. It was my first one. What? I didn't know anything yet. I knew zero things.
Well, in that silence, I just like to say hello. I'm super excited to be at the in-person show. And I'm Ruth from Consortium Book Sales and Distribution, and we have a bunch of independent presses from here around the world. And probably we are happy to, at the end of the show, contribute to those big boxes of books. So I'm sure I might have given you a book or two in Minneapolis. Anyways,
you are new, getting to know Chris and Ruth will be a huge bang for your book because they represent so many publishers. So it's a really good place to get started on your journey if you're at the beginning of it.
Yeah, and don't be intimidated by the so many publishers because we and the reps that represent us can always walk you through what is going to be good for your store and you know, talking about what your community is specifically. So.
One thing that I was pretty terrible at for the first couple of conferences that I went to was passing. Like saying, oh, like, thank you, but I just don't think that's for me. And I mean, we're dealing with people who love books, who are passionate about books. And like, if you are on the trade floor just saying like, oh, like that's, thank you for letting me know, but that's not great for my store. So I won't like take a copy. Because if you are ending up with as many books as Emily took home at her first conference, like when you get back to the store and you're like, why? Why did I do that? Like maybe you have a great reason. Maybe you are like, oh yeah, like I can find a staff person for this, or like I have a great person in my community that can do a staff or like a community review of this book. But don't be afraid to say no, like, which I'm notoriously terrible at. Like, so don't be like me. Don't do the thing that I do.
I'd also like to say, you said get back to the store. Also remember that we are very much open to and accept memberships from and encourage non or location independent bookstores to join the association to be part of the party. Barbara Serio at La Revo in Milwaukee just showed up and I thought of her, and just know that pop-up stores, online stores are huge and growing and has democratized the industry in a really big way. So we're super excited for bookstores of all models to join us and to be there and to learn from one another.
So as you saying that, Carrie, I was unmuted because I wanted to say something as well, as long as we're giving advice and things like that. But our first, I'm sorry, I have a call coming in. Can you go over there with your phone? Sorry, kids. Our first bookstore conference was the MIBA spring road trip. And, you know, as Carrie said, we are from La Revo Books. We're the only Latinx bookstore in Milwaukee. The only Latinx folks bookstore in Milwaukee, but wanted to kind of give some advice if you're on the fence of, you know, deciding if you're going to come or not. I highly recommend it. It was truly amazing to be surrounded by, you know, bookish related people, publishers, and getting to know everyone. What my sister and I did, we brought merchandise so that when it came time to network, we had stickers to sell, we had shirts, we had, you know, things stuffed in our bags, and, you know, of like all like prices and sizes. And yes, that is Melissa's current outfit. She's wearing one of our shirts, but like highly recommend for you all to like come and like promote your bookstores, especially because we want to support one another. And I'd happily and proudly rock one of your t-shirts or stickers and merchandise here in Wisconsin. So this is, you know, we've already registered, so we will be heading there to Heartland, but I'm really excited to get to know all of you and meet you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. We loved having you. It was so much fun to meet you. You know how I feel about that. And the surprise party that we are hoping to talk about, Larry referenced it, it's not really put together yet, is going to be a merchandise swap of some kind. So you're going to hear us talking about bringing your stuff to give away, to share with other booksellers, to don mutually, since bookstore t-shirts are having their moment. So more to come on that information. Well, it sounds like we did it. Any final thoughts before we part for the evening? Thank you for coming. We just can't wait to be back together again. 10th anniversary, all in one place. It's going to be pretty wild and pretty special. So thank you, everyone, and spread the good word. We'll see you next time, and see you in St. Louis, hopefully.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.